tonight, I'm gonna have to go in and just straight edit the video to get the bad sound out and get to the good sound. But once again, let me say peace to everybody in the chat room. We got Dimes ASMR in the house, Miss Gigi in the house, Yapo, good to see you, brother. Story time is in the house. Jasmine Virgo's in the house. We got my man. Wow, we got my man, the one and only O'Shea Duke Jackson, who just super chatted me. Thank you, brother. And I haven't forgotten about the interview that I'm going to do with you. I'm going to send you an email, and we'll pick a good weekend when you're not too busy, and we'll shoot the breeze. I want to go a little bit deeper with you, O'Shea, about your background and what have you. You're from the Sacramento area, so we're going to go. I want to go deeper. But right now, my guest is Brother Art, NUSTAL TV. Brother, just for people, there's a lot of people in the chat who know who you are, but for people who may not know who you are and that will watch this video, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do for a living. And I asked you that question before we went live. Why did you go into the teaching profession, brother? Go ahead.
Peace to everyone. I got in the teaching profession so I can move out my mother's house. Real talk.
Oh,
I had to get up out of there. No, for the most part, yeah, I had to. That was probably one of the only things that made sense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be something that was like maybe 5 years, and it turned out to be 24 years now. Because I found out I was pretty much good at it. Had the results that other educators wish they had. So other than that was the main reason, though. But other than that, I wind up finding out that this is what I do.
Wow. So you had a passion for it now?
Yeah, I started liking the results. I started liking what was extremely needed for our youth at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really soaked in a lot of game from the veterans there.
Okay. Interesting. Let me ask you, then you soaked in some knowledge from the veterans. Did you have a black teacher, now whether it's a female, a woman, or a black male, but you know, we're talking about black males tonight. Did you have any black males that played a vivid role in actually opening up your imagination towards teaching or education, learning? You know what I'm saying? And if it was you know, sisters as well, go ahead and express that, brother. Did you have any of that type of inspiration?
What, while I was teaching or while I was in school?
It could be either, both, brother.
In school, nah, I didn't really. I'm trying to remember. And I didn't get much influence from black male teachers in high school.
Now, see, this plays into the subject matter tonight. Did you not get that influence either because there weren't enough black male teachers in your school, in the environment, or go ahead, brother?
I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, because I was somewhat in a, you know, I went to Carson High.
Okay.
So that's like I don't know how much bougie you can get with that.
Mm-hmm.
We have way more black female teachers, but black male, the black male teachers, half of them were, you know, I guess you call adults, and the other half was pretty much African. So we had a lot of African male teachers, and hey, I didn't really, you know, I can't just, you know, like, you know, some people have these moments where you just think back and say, wow, this person told me blah, blah, blah. All the male teachers in high school that really gave me some wisdom and stuff like that, they weren't black. You know, I mean, some were white, some were Asian. That was it, white and Asian.
Okay. What's up, Sister J Dunn? What's up to my man Kenny? It's always great to see you there. Let me see. Sister J Dunn is really cool, sister there. Let me see. We got a fashion of life. Thank you for being here, Sister Dimes. I'm glad brother Muhammad is in the house. So I'm glad to see some of these folks that are coming in. I appreciate that. I know that there's a lot of streams tonight, so there's a lot of competition, but I'm not concerned about that because this is important information and people will watch after the fact as well. We're going to keep pushing, and I got people watching me over in the Periscope area, and I got a nice growing following over there. I gotta be honest with you, brother Art. Do you find that to be problematic? That, and I'm not trying to, lay any blame on your upbringing, you personally, but do you find that to be problematic for young black males, in particular, young black ladies? Because I know growing up myself, most of the teachers that I experienced growing up myself as a Generation Xer were mostly white teachers. And some of my worst experiences in education came from white teachers that would say things like, you ain't never going to amount to anything. Sister Fashion for Life, she said herself that it seems that most of the teachers tend to be a white. And we know when black people were segregated, we were being taught by mainly black people, black teachers, black male teachers, black female teachers. And even though we might have had a separate education, but that was not equal, with less bells and whistles, like the proper, like books and the nicest things. And I said this, I tried to say this before in another stream that we were on together. Black people still gave love to their children, even when we had less to work with to educate our children. I'll give you a story, case in point myself. I had a bad experience when I was in elementary school. And you know what they do to black male children? They try to label them learning disability and all these different things. They were telling my mother that I was not able to do certain things at school. And what my mother did at home with a chalkboard is that she was teaching me at home using various, curriculum. And I was excelling at home in those same lessons that they were claiming that I couldn't do at school. And I equate that to the fact that my mother loved me and her goal was for me to learn. If our kids are going to school and being taught by people in some cases that do not want to see us exceed.
Uh-oh. Your sound is off, brother. Your sound is off.
There we go.
Okay.
Man. Wouldn't it just happen on a night like this? I was saying that Malcolm X, when you read his autobiography, in there, he talked about having a desire to become a lawyer and how the teachers talk to him. So I said a mouthful. What would you like to chump on, Brother Art? All the stuff that I said.
Well, that's the part that we keep overlooking. I had this long talk with a few of my students today. Teachers spend about 7 to 8, between 6 and 8 hours with the students more than the parents daily.
Wow.
Think about that. That's a long time away from your parents.
Yes.
So whatever is being repeated to them over and over is going to influence the home. And it's not just the teachers influencing the students, it's the other students influencing the students.
Yes.
And you're in a school, well, not most, but there's quite a bit of schools where there's teachers is there to get a paycheck.
Right.
Let's just keep that 100. They're there to get a paycheck. I got one even better. Now, say for example, you pretty much let's go with the lighter persuasion type teacher from an affluent area.
Yes.
You're trying to apply to teach, right? You're applying to teach. And what happens, you're trying to give back all the stuff that you've learned, and you got all these different ideals, but none of these schools or districts hire you. So all the children that kind of look like you, have the same background as you.
Yes.
The district just says, hey, try back next year. Now all of a sudden The only people that respond to you are the schools in the inner cities. They hire you and everything.
Right.
But the thing is, those schools are pretty far away from where you live. So you got to pass all the places that turn you down to this inner city school with people that don't look like you. I ask some of my students this sometimes. I said, how much effort are you going to give to try to make sure these students learn what you wanted these other kids to learn? I mean, you're constantly reminded. I mean, it's almost like the Olympics when that bell rings to dismiss for to go home.
Yes,
They're
sir.
out of there. They're going. It's like they run in that parking lot. You know, I noticed that a lot of teachers, they don't, you know, the ones that some of them, they don't like kids. They don't like students. Sometimes they convince themselves that this student is a grown up. They're not a child.
Okay.
And on the other hand, the ones that have strong potential, they try to make him more too far into the child status, especially those guys that's supposed to be young men.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what that whole thing with I think it was the Malcolm part, or even Farrakhan, because I think Farrakhan said he had a female white teacher. And one of the things when you have like this strong masculine expression or energy, that's probably one of the biggest things that's shut down out of everything else. It's not always the unruly boy. It's the one that has more of a leadership ability. So he tends to be treated like a pet. You know, some little small what do you call it? Igor, as you will.
Yes.
And I try to, hey, I try to give some kind of advisement as far as to navigate around it, because those are my peers that I work with. But I have to always keep telling them, tell your parent. But they're afraid that if they tell the parent, they're going to get picked on for the rest of the school year.
Wow.
It's a lot of stuff that goes on in these schools. You know, they keep thinking that somebody walking around with their hat on backwards and saying yo-yo a lot. It's not always the case. You know.
Let me ask you this question. Fashionable, and I think Brother Yapo talked about, you know, it's ridiculous to have people that are your enemy teaching your kids. What is your opinion, being that you are in a teaching profession? What is your opinion about homeschooling?
I'm kind of on the fence with it.
Okay. And why are you on the fence, brother?
Because I think it mainly works most of the time when you have somewhat of a educational background, and at the same time you're staying a totally attentive to your child. And if you're the type of parent that lets the child just stay in the room and do all the PlayStations and the social media while you doing your own thing in another room, and I don't see how much of a development that is when you're calling yourself homeschooling. And then usually I don't think it's fair for the child, is because usually what happens when that child grows up the way that you don't want them to be, you still punish that child. You're still not taking responsibility on you understanding that that wasn't your lane. You know, I ran into a lot of different homeschooling people that really did it right and took care of business, but they did tell me some stories about people that really thought they can just, you know, kick it or whatever. But it's that homeschooling is not that easy, like people try to make it out to be. You got to put in that time. You got to put in that time. And somebody was telling me also is that it's very important to get them involved in the local activities part of that homeschooling program. You know, that's one of the things, because if they're an introvert and you trying to get them to go to college, good luck. You know, especially if they're going away from you. But if it's done right, I'm always for it. If it's done right.
Okay. Everybody, what you're seeing on the screen, for those of you that are new to my channel, those of you that are listening and watching on Periscope and Twitter, Brother Art is also an accomplished artist. So this is some of the things that he does on his own channel, where he'll bring guests on and have brothers and sisters and talk about a variety of different issues. And he'll have artists, as other artists on, as well as himself. And while he's having conversation, he will actually work on an actual art piece. Brother Art, NUSTAL, brother, what are you working on right now? What exactly are you conjuring up here? Creating.
Miseducation of the Negro Arthur, Carter G. Woodson.
Okay, let me I've been enlarging the screen so people can see that every now and then. And I see right now you've already kind of got the nose and the eyes. You really and that's a very important book, The Miseducation of the Negro Child. Very important. If you have not read that book, everybody, I would suggest you pick that book up and get your hands on it. Now, Art, let me go over something real quick with you to get your opinion about this, because this is very important too as well. You know, when you talk about Black teachers, the retention of Black teachers, and how there's a decrease. Where you work at personally, let me ask this question. Very difficult. Are you the only Black teacher in the school, or are you one of a few? And when, based on how you answer this, I'm gonna tell you where I'm going with this. Go right ahead, brother.
Okay, I'm kind of blessed because I'm in the a cluster in the district where we have it even across the board, where you have your, I think it's the least we have are Asians, but for the most part is probably half and half when it comes to Black and white. But I think for sure, I don't know, it looks like it's pretty even across the board where I'm at. I never really saw it to where it's just majority this or majority that. The only people that are really not in there that much is Asians, where I'm at.
Okay. Now let me go over this little statement right here. There was a new study, brother Art, found that the number of Black teachers in the public schools of 9 cities dropped between 2000 and 2012. In Washington, D.C., Black teachers share of the workforce dropped from 77% to 49%. The research at Stanford University by brother Travis Briscoe that I tried to play his audio, and there was some problems. This is a brother at UC Berkeley right now who's been talking about the whole way that we can get more retention of Black males in the classroom. Briscoe is trying to figure out why Black men are leaving the profession. While a lot of attention was being paid to hiring more Black male teachers, relatively little was being done to hold on to them. Now, why is it a shortage of Black male teachers something we should be worried about? There are more students of color. I don't like that word, but for the purpose of what we're talking about, the article, United States public schools, then so there are more there's more students of color than there are teachers that are white in the public schools. Teachers of color represent 18% of the country's teaching force, and Black male teachers less than 2%. As I had said earlier, Black male teachers can serve to disrupt societal preoccupation with the negative images that they have of Black men. About 34% response rate. If you were the now, just check this out. Art. If you were the only or are the only Black man in your school, you were more likely to say that people in the building were afraid of you because you were Black, versus a school with 3 or more Black male teachers. Okay. Now, they interviewed in this study about 27 Black male teachers across 14 schools, were 7 schools with 1 Black male teacher and 7 with 3 or more Black male teachers. If a school did not have a Black male teacher on the faculty, it was more likely to be led by a white principal. If a school had 3 or more Black male teachers on the faculty, it was more likely to be led by a Black principal. Now, they did it now in Boston, Massachusetts. Black male teachers, at least in Boston, were concentrated in most challenging schools. Now, let me stop there as I go on. Art, in your experience in teaching, when you started out in teaching and any of your colleagues, why is it, or do you see that a lot of times when you have Black males in the teaching profession, we tend to be placed in schools that are in low economic deprived areas? And when we're placed in these schools, as some of the brothers in this study were saying, that sometimes they didn't feel like their colleagues saw them as teachers, but more as disciplinarian agents. They won't always be called on to fix a problem with kids and their behavior, like they're truant officers. Have you ever experienced that for yourself, or have seen other colleagues, Black males in particular, that are thrust in these kind of roles, or in schools that are really not in the best shape?
I can talk about my hallway.
All right.
I'm pretty much the only one that speak up. I don't care who you look like. I don't care how many ankle braces you wear. If you ain't here like when when you're supposed to be here, I'm gonna say something about it.
Okay.
But some of the other people just sit back and and then just don't do anything. I'm like, I mean, hell, if we're looking at 24 years, and that's the thing that I've been hearing as well. That they always know, they kind of know that most of us are not really afraid to at least address something, because I'm just gonna keep it real. Some people that don't look like us don't really say anything.
Okay.
Especially in the inner city school, they don't say anything, man. They don't. And the thing is, I don't really pressure them like, you need to say something. But sometimes I do hint, like, okay, well, it'd be good to keep an eye out, and they pretend, oh, I'll keep an eye, I'll keep an eye out, but they don't, because like I said, some of them come to these schools, but not really liking kids. They take some of them take the life, or not the life, but the humanness from the child. They put them into some other category. That's why sometimes you gotta find out what some of these teachers are watching as far as movies. Sometimes these movies give them an ideal of what they think the schools are or what they should be.
Okay. Have you yourself personally felt like they were trying to make you the Joe Clark of the school?
Nah.
Let's go to Art. Art will fix the problem.
Nah. But I have seen other teachers though that were Black that they did, but not me. No, I was only, because I have the way my room is situated. I mean, if people hear me speak spiritual talk and stuff like that,
Yes.
it goes for my room too. You come in there, you smelling jasmine and rose and orange and all that. So my whole thing is just keep making sure that the atmosphere is not disrupted, so we can create. That's my whole thing. But sometimes you got like a lot of Black teachers out there breaking up fights outside, making sure that the halls, I mean, not the hall, but the outside is clear. And they're volunteers. And some of them back in the day, they would kiss some major ass too. That kind of thing. That's the other side of it.
Okay. Art, let me ask you this question, and you're the best one to answer this. What about having influence and autonomy in the workplace? They were talking about how in some of the studies that I looked at, that you have Black male teachers that are frustrated because they don't feel like they have autonomy in their workplace and when it comes to the courses, their key hallmarks of respect and they don't feel like they're being respected by their other colleagues, that they don't feel that the school is providing them a classroom where they have full autonomy to be able to teach the kids and to empower the kids. Some Black male teachers feel like that they're put in lose-lose situations. Have you seen that for your other people other colleagues that were black male teachers? Have you experienced that yourself personally? You know, everyone has a different path, a different story.
No, that I haven't seen that. I think the majority, because the where I'm at, we're always having minority, so-called minority teachers. I mean, not teacher, but administration.
Okay.
We've hardly ever had a white administrator. So that might make a difference a little bit, but I think some of the nuances are still there.
Okay. What about talks about how some teachers have talked about, you know, when they're eating their lunch, they're on their lunch break, or they're trying to grade papers and come up with lesson plans. A lot of times they're interrupted to deal with behavior problems with students. That black male teachers are trying to get their lesson plans together. They're trying to get shit, you know, cracking properly, and they're the go-to person. Because let's be honest, Art, we live in a society, and you know this, brother, where they tend to stereotype and see black males as brutes. And when something goes wrong, I knew when I was in school myself, there was such a brother like this. When there was something breaking out, they would go get Leroy, for example.
I think that's how I wind up leaving when I left this one district and went to the other. They saw the district where I came from. They're like, "Oh, this should be a breeze over here for you."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, that I think they always have it in their mind based on what district that you so-called survived or got your battle scars.
Yes.
You should be able to withstand the test of time. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we've been kind of sheltered a little bit from that. I mean, we have things that are affecting us, but as far as the disciplinary, it's kind of different now, especially with this generation.
Okay, then, Art, let me say this then, because we got to put some good perspective on this. Do you think it's a generational thing? Because, you know, I'm a Gen Xer. I feel like black teachers, particularly black male teachers, dealt with a lot of stuff back in the day. Maybe things are changing today because, you know, our society is sort of, for a lack of a better word, they're sort of coddling kids nowadays, right?
Yes.
Whereas, you know, I don't know, me and you, I mean, I come from a time where, hell, the principals used to have that little paddle in the office.
Oh yeah, I came up with that too. The corporal punishment.
Right. I came up that same way too.
When I didn't get when I wasn't a snitch, I had to pay for it though.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of them. You know.
Okay. I went through the same thing. Now, I remember when I was in high school, I used to be into break dancing and all of that back in the early 80s, 83, 84. And there was a assistant principal. And this gets back to some of the data that I'm looking at here that black male teachers have complained about. They use this brother as principal always to deal with the disciplinarian issues. So one day I'm breakdancing, he snatches me up, sends me home for breakdancing, right? We're not fighting, but they didn't want us breakdancing on school grounds for the various reasons that they felt it would put them at risk. Mm-hmm. So I go home. My mother is like, "Why did they send you home?" "Well, I was breakdancing on my lunch break, Mom." So my mom took me right back up to the school and said, "I want to talk to this Negro." Met with the principal, was white. He was vice principal. And she said, my son is a good student here. He gets good grades. If he's cutting up in class, he's causing problems in the classroom. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing academically. Then you send him home if he's got disciplinarian problems. But don't be sending my son home from school for dancing on his lunch break. And I bring that up because throughout all my years at Washington High School in San Francisco, that's what this brother was used for as principal. And he would come out in the early morning with a bullhorn. I mean, he had that Joe Clark type stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would be like, get to class. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, when I look back on it, they primarily used that brother to keep, in my opinion, the Negroes in line in the school.
A white administrator?
White administrator.
Oh, okay.
And we had quite a few black students in the school. We had all different races. Living in San Francisco, you go to school with all different kind of people. But I noticed when he would do his bully bull pitting, it seemed to be geared towards, in my opinion, maybe I'm being too sensitive about it, towards black students. Use the Negro principal to put pressure on the black students in the school. As if we're the only ones that were cutting up in the school.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, like our situation, we had the black security guards.
Oh God, I had those too. I had those kind of brothers too.
Yeah. And he wound up being cool later on, and he wind up being a security at a school where I taught.
Right.
That was like, yeah, but he was one of the security guards at my high school.
Wow. Let me just say this to stay on topic though. What do you see, Art, because you're in the classroom, you're working with kids, and some of the data that I looked at said that there is a benefit to other race of kids being taught, being given educational instruction by black teachers. What do you think is the power of having the black male teacher? Because, you know, teaching has for so long been sort of has been seen as a female profession dominated by women to a certain degree. As I said, 77% women versus 23% men, and that goes across all races. What do you think is the inherent benefit overall? Because I know the benefit for black kids is tremendous, but what do you think are the benefits from your point of view?
I remember like, even like, it's funny, like I'm always getting the only white kid in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And you already hear my position. I'm not sure if you call it black first, but I'm mainly for my people most of all.
Yes.
But the white kids there gravitate towards me. And trust me, I mean, every student that walk in there, they're gonna get some game. They're gonna get some knowledge or what have you. So
Right.
even when in the way that I do talk, sometimes I give them real talk in my class, because basically they need to know some things before they leave that school. They need to know some things before they graduate. So even this one this one white kid said, I can't stand my race.
Wow.
I said, why you say that, man? He said, all this stuff that I'm learning. I said, no, you gotta be the representative of the good side of what you come from. You can't just take on the bad stuff and wear it as a jacket. You know,
Right.
I mean, you got John Brown, you got all these different people that try to right the wrongs of what their relatives have done.
True.
So I said, you know, some of the stuff you hear is not to make everybody feel bad or anything, because I'm guarantee you hear some of this stuff in your U.S. history class.
Right.
So the key thing that you're going to have to do, since you know this information, you're just going to have to be a better representative of what you hear. You know, hopefully he understood. I mean, took what I said. But I wind up seeing him off at his graduation. But that's what it is. I mean, sometimes I think the fact that I was able to talk to him, I wasn't always having this whole thing about white people are bad. I wouldn't say nothing like that. Mm-hmm. We were mainly talking about preparing for what's going on out there, so you won't get caught up in things. Right. But I guess he took some of that in. I was like, man, that go for you too. Mm. What you talking about? You know. So go ahead, brother.
Let me go ahead and say what's going on to Roger in the house. We got my man, the Spiritual Creed. Thank you for being here. JB, Thank you for being here. Everybody in the chat room, thank you. We got Jasmine Virgo in the house. Of course, Gigi. Oh, we got the guy from Texas. Love him. Peace, brother, for being here. The fashionable of life has been making some really good points. Of course, my man Yapo, who's been following me since very day one. We got Ricky Turner in the house. Thank you for being here. Anybody that I haven't acknowledged in the chat room, I apologize. Jay Dunn. I just thank you all for being here. And most importantly, share the video in your social media. Let me ask you another question, though. What about let's get to the real creps of everything. What about the impact that black male teachers have on young black males? I don't think, see, this is my theory. This is my theory. I think that black males in particular are attacked, and this is probably obvious already, are attacked the way we are in school. See, the black male image has already been distorted, misviewed, and stereotyped. And I believe that it starts from the very moment when our mothers and our fathers sent us into this grade school, into these elementary schools. They say that during elementary school and preschool, black children are ahead of everyone because our learning is interactive in the way we learn at home. If you go into any black household or within the black culture, our learning is not a learning in which you sit down in a chair and you're in a room with white walls. And if you know anything about colors, white sedates you versus being in a preschool or a kindergarten where you got all these stimulating colors. And black children, as we do at home, our learning is interactive in our learning. And something happens between the transition between preschool to kindergarten to going into the junior high school years, where everything changes in the learning system, where we're told not to be interactive in our learning, but just to regurgitate information. And our culture, which is why there is no one way to teach people, but our culture is geared to interactiveness. And that's when the destruction of young black males begin, because you have, in particular, white teachers, white society that begins to demonize the black child as learning disabled, as giving them an EOP program, putting them in a track. I was that such kid they did that to. So I'm not just talking about it. I'm a firsthand experience of it. So you put us in a tracking system, then you put us in classes that we don't belong in. That happened to me. In classes with kids who have behavior problems. Now you're automatically labeled as a black youngster who has behavior problems when you probably never had. And then they keep you out of educational courses that allow you to be able to get into college. These are the things that happen in these particular type of schools. I was a victim of that, Brother Art. And that to me begins the prison pipeline system. That begins the demonization of black kids, as you see in social media, where you have cops that come into school, dragging our kids on the ground, slamming them on the ground, and what have you. They see us as animals. And so when we were on a panel with BMT and you had a young brother talking about, well, it's about policies. No, yes, policies are important, but our kids have to be in an environment that is nurturing, where they're getting loved. They are not in a war zone, as Nilly Fuller Jr. would say, a war zone of white supremacy, where they're being effed with in their learning process. And then next thing you know, when your parents come to school for teacher, for teacher one-to-one with the teacher is telling parents, your child's got a problem. Maybe they should go see a psychologist. Your child's got this, your child's got that. Maybe you should put your child on Ritalin. All these, now they want to put the drugs on us. Now, I said a mouthful, Brother Art. What are your thoughts about some of the statements that I said and your experiences as a teacher around these issues?
Well, one, the way that the black boys are and with black males is not how it used to be. You know, how we used to be able to take someone under our wing and show them some things that the father that wasn't around was able to show them.
Right.
There's so much resentment. between young black males and young black teachers. I mean, and black teachers.
Okay.
Lots. It's crazy because it even goes into that part. Remember how you were going into how the teachers, black teachers, supposed to be the enforcer?
Right. They always got black teachers as enforcers, black males as the enforcer, the Joe Clark type.
Yeah. So I think some of these young black males face some of that. So as they got older and went up into the high school level, I mean, they're swinging in the air. Like anybody that has that look is suspect. And yeah, it's weird because I'm a very I don't know how masculine I sound, but I really push masculinity in my room.
Okay.
You know, you wearing pink shoes and all that. I mean, we go into that. You know, I mean, the ones that do listen, the ones that pretty much go that way, I don't even bother. But we have these talks, and I think some of them they kind of run because they know I'm going to be trying to push as push as much as I can to bring the manhood out of them, just like any other old school teacher back then. So I definitely noticed the resentment where it's almost as though I was the father that wasn't there.
Mm.
Now all of a sudden you're going to have some concern about what I do in your class.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I took one, you know, I had one student. And it's what you gotta remember too, like we're in the West Coast, so a lot of our class is gonna be majority Latino.
Right.
So it's always that one black child that wants to cut up and challenge you while the other Latinos are treating you with respect. And
Now I'm gonna ask a pretty a question that's controversial here. Here we go. Do you think, Brother Art, NUSTAL TV, do you believe that the reason why you will see in some cases disrespect from black students to black teachers, whether it be black male teachers in this case or black female teachers, but black males in particular, do you think that has something to do with the fact that if you have households where black kids are growing up without a father figure in the household and they only have a mother, which means they're getting the feminine energy, but there's no real true masculine energy in the household. So therefore they don't grow up really respecting black authority, but they grow up seeing white authority, right? On television and the money, right? The president is white. The money has the white, has the presidents from the past on it. So they grow up in a world where everything that is representing power and authority does not look like them. Or did they have someone that looks like them as a male figure execute that authority and that masculinity and power in their household for them to respect that? Now they go to school. Here you got a black male teacher trying to project that which they never had, and that black child says, "Bunk you." What are your thoughts? I said a mouthful there.
well, you got the ones with the father. Man, when we have those, man, I put a pin in that name because I know I can call pops and have it and chop it up.
Yes.
And we'd be on the same page. That's not it. That's not a problem. Or the mom that even though she is the single mom, she just don't take no nonsense. You know, even though she probably masculine in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
she knows that a man is present when she's not around. So we you know we got cell phone numbers and everything, so we keep in touch. So what's happening though is that the ones that don't have that pipeline, I guess, they're the ones that pretty much get to navigate their way through things, get away with stuff even. And I'm gonna
Yes.
keep it real, man. Some of these
Yes, sir.
guys are effeminate. I'm gonna keep it real, dude. Some of
Wow,
these
that's a big
guys are
problem.
kind of
That's a big problem.
sassy talking, which is crazy because the girls are damn near like, hey, what I mean, that's all you need? Okay, what else you need me to do? I mean, the girls are very attentive, you know. Matter of fact, they finish their work fast. Where the guys are like lackadaisy, they play with their dreads or whatever it is, or they're, you know, trying to come in my class with a do-rag, which I ain't gonna take. Take that shit off.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, that, you know, it's weird that, but at the same time, I'm still trying to figure out what can I do, because I know it is a combination or a code that we haven't cracked yet. Because when you're dealing with Generation Z, they're the ones that has to be able to see and take, like I said, hold on and touch whatever you're trying to explain. You
Right.
can't just give them an order. Matter of fact, you can't even threaten them with consequences. They gotta feel the burn.
Okay. Let me ask you this other controversial question. Now, when you look at the Nation of Islam, and they preach, and I know you were a part of that at one point in time, or you are, they preach self-reliance, do for self. And I know I asked you the question about homeschooling and schooling, and you said that you're a little iffy on it based on if the person is qualified to do such a thing.
Yep.
Now, you can make an argument that the Nation of Islam has been homeschooling way before homeschooling and charter schools were even a thing. Now, I believe that they have the formula, because what happens in their schooling is that you've got men as well as the ladies that are teaching the young men, to be respectful, and they're educating them. In the Nation of Islam, of course, they have a system, so that system and that culture keeps the young children in check, because they grow up within a system, well, what we would call a code of conduct. But there, whatever it is, brother Art, and you've been a part of it, it is working. Why is it that we can't translate that to public school? Now, I'm probably answering my own question. We know that public school, because it's public, the government is involved. So there's only so much you can do to be outside the box the way the nation is when it comes to educating their own kids. What are your thoughts?
Well, you have Sister Clara Muhammad, which is the wife of Elijah Muhammad in the beginning. She's
Yes.
really stressed on education. So any child that came into her care was going to be educated, you know, according to the story being told. Um, and then at the same time, too, there was some that did homeschooling, but at the same time, they always had Muhammad University. So anyone that couldn't take their child there, I gotta stop saying kid. Anyone that couldn't take their child there,
Yes.
they would have to do homeschooling. But at the same time, the MGTs always had a formula to get that done. They had a support system.
Mm-hmm.
They still had a community of homeschooling. It just wasn't a one-man band, you know. And that's the thing. That's why I was saying done right. I mean, some people are able to pull off that whole thing where they do everything alone with no guidance or whatever. But you need like the most people that I've spoken with that've done it, they usually have someone, like they usually have like maybe 5 parents, 10 parents as a network, and constantly meet and talk about different things that they're going to do with their child. If their child's having challenges, trading information as far as what helped them out. Right now, they got the class with a Google Classroom in the homeschool now, so they're able to send things to each other. I mean, they take it serious. That's what I'm saying. Um, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people have all kinds of things. You know how they say, well, I don't want nobody in my business.
Right.
So there's some things that they don't want people to find out. And the thing is, I think that the homeschooling gets tied up in there. You know, I mean, like sometimes you might say, okay, you take a day off, you know, everything's gonna be fine. I mean, everything's gonna be relaxing for today, but sometimes you might take too many days off. That kind of thing. I mean, I heard so many stories. I heard success stories, and I heard nightmares. But I think that's, like I said, at the end, you got to really understand what it's going to be like when that child grows up. with that
Okay.
homeschooling though. And as far as the nation, again, the nation pretty much when it comes to education,
Yes, sir.
they're gonna always have some kind of group supporting each other for the sake of the child.
Okay. We got Brother Deep in Thought in the house. He says, salute to the chat and to myself. Peace to you, brother. I'm glad to see you here. Let me see. This is what I want to read by the guy from Texas. He said that white Jesus plays a big role as to a lot of black folks have that white Jesus picture on their wall and view white people in a godlike status. And that plays into what I was saying earlier when your kids go to school and whether they respect the authority, particularly the authority of a black male. And I say that in particular because I personally think that that's what I'm seeing that's lacking today. The respect and reverence of a proper black male in particular, not these black males that you see on television and these entertainers that are, you know, all over the place that these kids are looking up to. And let me ask you this other question, Art. Why should a black man, given all these factors, even decide to go into teaching? And you've been in the teaching profession for how long, brother?
24 years.
24 years. Before you answer that question, has there ever been a day where you said, I want to throw in the towel? I had enough of this shit.
Almost every year. It is not the students. It's
Tell the truth.
It's the condition. You know, sometimes the condition is unbearable.
Okay. This goes into the point that I was looking at on the data here. It says that most black men who leave the profession is because they don't have autonomy in their classroom. The conditions are poor. They're not treated respectfully. And that causes a lot of black men to drop out. They were saying that black men who are teaching when you have a school that has a white principal where there's maybe one black male teacher, maybe two, and the conditions of that school may not be what it is in a more underprivileged type school. Despite some of those conditions, that black men are more likely to stay in the school and continue teaching, even if there's some of those issues present. But when black men are particularly thrust into schools that are underachieving or schools that have a lot of problems, behavior problems, on top of the other things that we just mentioned, black men are more likely to drop out of that school and say, I'm finished with this shit.
Well, most of them, I tell you this though, most of the black males that are fed up, they become administrators.
Okay.
That part I've seen. They wind up going into some kind of administrative program, and they just wind up being a assistant or a principal. And I might be going down that road myself. Because that's what it is. Because you got to look at the power. See, you used to have that power and influence in classrooms. You get a captive audience. You connect with all those young minds for different classes. Everything that you say is supposed to be regurgitated and taken outside into the world.
Yes.
It's weird because I had a student, I think probably like 15, the student I had 15 years ago, they quoted damn near everything I said word for word. And I'm like, I said that?
Wow.
They listen, you know what I mean? So and that's the thing is that now, and maybe it's because of the generation gap. And don't get me wrong, I reached all of millennials, zennials, or excuse me, Generation Z. I reached all of them, but for the Generation Z,
Yes.
it's taking more work.
Okay.
Yes.
Art, let me go ahead. Art, hold that point right there. Hopefully the sound's going to come out better. I got a clip that I want to play, a quick clip that I think plays into things that we're talking about right now, about some of the things that sort of drag on black men when it comes to teaching in these schools. And let me go ahead and play this particular clip right now.
To
find a solution. Daryl McKellar makes teaching look easy. Over 20 years in the classroom, the Los Angeles English teacher has mastered some of the job's trickiest tasks.
Title story? Lottery. And what I'm asking
Like
you guys right
how to
about?
get students to connect to the
first, second,
texts he
and third?
teaches.
Brina, what do you know? When I say lottery, what do you think? Automatic. Money. Brown, what do you think? Drama. Why drama? More money, more problems. Who said it? It is a rapper.
And how to crack his students up.
More money, more problem. Wait, baby. Notorious B.I.G. But he also says we can't expect to change the world until we do what? Change who? Change yourself. Very good. So I'm asking.
Let the record show that students are engaged.
Just 1% of teachers in California are Black men like McKellar. That's why he works with a local teachers college to help train others. But just preparing them for the classroom isn't enough to keep them there.
A lot of teachers don't stay, especially young Black, young brown teachers don't choose to stay because they don't feel supported.
Poor working conditions are the thing most likely to drive any teacher from the profession. But teachers of color are concentrated in schools with the most challenging conditions. That's a big part of the reason they leave at higher rates, and Black and brown men are especially likely to quit. Longtime Compton Unified teacher Marco Godinez has some thoughts on why.
The only time I ever seem to get a phone call is, hey, we've got these kids misbehaving in this class. Can you come over and help them calm down? And we're not respected at the same level as other teachers. We're just seen as discipline experts.
A few school districts around the country are creating support networks specifically for male teachers of color, places to learn from peers and share expertise. But at Godinez's school in Compton, they're trying something a little different. School leadership is working side by side with its male teachers of color.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to our Compton Male Teacher of Color Network meeting.
On a Saturday at Dominguez High School in Compton, a dozen teachers are gathered in the library. The principal is here, the assistant principal, even the district superintendent. Laptops are out around the table. One teacher is busy trying to wrangle his toddlers. There are bagels and coffee, Google Docs, and a projector. The teachers paired up and visited each other's classrooms recently.
What I noticed in Mr. Rogini, he's saying, don't worry about the mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes.
They spent some time sharing strategies they discovered.
I think I kind of put the kids a little bit more defensive. I need to emphasize with the students more.
Then they turned to something else. There'd been a lockdown on campus a day earlier after a student made a violent threat.
Our kids don't know how to react to that trauma because they're kids. They're kids. It's like we have to model that. And
Godinez says sometimes it feels like parents thwart those efforts.
sometimes you call a parent because the child's been in a fight, and the parent's coming down here to get into a fight with someone and escalate it.
Apparently, this happened just this week.
Yeah, like we're here for the kids, but it's like the whole community needs the
Information
help.
is power.
Okay, everybody, that's one of the clips that I just played a few minutes ago. That's actually in LA, South Central area. Brother Art, you heard the name, I think Dominic, you can name it better than I can. You're in Southern California. Are you familiar with some of the schools that were referenced in that audio clip?
I work with Mr. Godinez.
Oh my God, this is golden, man.
He does art as well.
Wow, that's
He's
golden.
I think he's their wrestling coach as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So that's recent.
This is the clip came from KQED. If everybody wants to check it out, it's KQED. It's about the issue around Black teachers and what they've got going around teachers, of color. They go that word again, but what they're doing is that they're unifying Black teachers, Latino teachers, and they're coming together on their weekends to strategize how to best reach the kids, how to support each other. So they got a little support group going on out there in Los Angeles, California, in the South Central area. And I think that person that you're talking about is the person that was on that they were talking about, brother.
Yeah, very cool dude. He sponged from me as well. When I was in that area. So shout out to him. That's That's the thing, is that you constantly have to keep reinventing how you teach and how you discipline them.
Right. Right. Art, are you personally involved in any type of what we call support group, when it comes to teachers? I mean, I don't care if it's about racial or whatever, just teachers in general. Teachers across the board need support, because I think brother Guy from Texas was saying that you have a lot of teachers, and I've seen this firsthand. Even when it comes to my own daughter, I've donated of my own resources to give supplies to the school. And I live in a pretty I'm not going to sit up here and lie. I live in a pretty decent community where economics are pretty high with people who own homes. But even in these kind of communities, you find teachers having to spend of their own money and time on weekends to bring supplies into the classroom. And we got guys like Donald Trump talking about he's making America great again, but that's another issue. What are your thoughts about that, brother Art? Have you had to pull from your own pocket strength?
Every year.
So
I mean, thank God for shout out to 99-cent store and Dollar Tree. Whew. And Michael's, Big Lot, all these different places. You gotta pull from your pocket. I mean, I reported as expenses for my taxes, but you're gonna have to come out the pocket to get some results. What I do is I go to the middle, our feeder schools, and prepare the 8th graders.
Yes.
For my class in the 9th grade. So if they do wind up in my class, it'll be business as usual. They can they know what I expect. It won't be a shock.
Right.
And not enough teachers are doing that in the academics, further academics. But when I get those students that I spend some time with, we talking about joking, clowning around, learning different mechanics of things, give them a sample of my book. Once they get a taste of it, they just come in and they matter of fact, they report to me most of the time when they come to the new campus, their new campus, which is the high school where I'm at. And they ask me about, what about this teacher? What about this building? Stuff like that. And we don't do it. If we did that, see, the problem is I don't get money for it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of teachers want to get paid for it. I'm like, you get paid when you don't have a bunch of gremlins up in your class.
Right.
You got to put in that time. You can't just expect somebody to give you some good, so-called quote unquote good students. You gotta show your face. They gotta to feel your presence. They gotta hear your voice, so they have something to look forward to the next year. Unfortunately, that's where we at, man. We get all kinds of all kinds of different characters, and we constantly trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with this one. Because I ain't gonna lie, I do get some people that I'm wondering where's what created you.
Right.
What planet did you come from?
What planet did you come from? What kind of parents you got? Wow.
Yeah. Where's the other gremlin at? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, Art, I got to ask you if you've experienced this. On the audio clip, you notice the brother said that he's in where we were talking before, how a lot of times black male teachers will find themselves being the unofficial truancy officer in the school. And he was also saying that when parents come to school, that now you got to deal with a parent who's out of control, who's unruly. I mean, you're dealing with their child who's got some issues that you got to deal with. That's why the teaching profession, I don't care what anyone says, it is the most difficult profession in this society. And I'm willing to sit up here and say tonight, as I've said before in my life, that teachers are the ones who should be making the most money in our society, or they should be very high up there in pay, because teachers are being asked to be counselors, teachers, fathers, mothers, truancy officers, counselors, buddies, whatever you want to call it, motivational speakers, shaping the minds of tomorrow, blah, 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 the truth. And you're taking of your own pockets in some cases. But you heard what the brother said. He said that he's got to deal with parents. Have you, NUSTAL TV, have you had to deal with such out of control parents at times?
Sometimes I get my little speech on, like, your child is not a bad child, but we have a situation here that needs to be addressed. Hopefully we'll come to some kind of solution, because I don't want to lose your baby. But right now we need to take care of this because, his grades are going low, or her, her record is going down. I'm quite sure it's affecting the other classes too. So hopefully, that's my conversation in phone calls.
Okay.
And if they out of pocket after that, that child needs to go to another class. I'm just being real. Because if I can't get the support of the parent, then you're breaking ed code. Teachers got to learn their rights as teachers in the classroom. Just because you got an unruly student in a class, that is violation of ed code, because you're breaking up and obstructing instruction in your class.
Right.
So you got 30 children in there, and one wants to cut up every time. They need to get evaluated if they're going to be an SDC student.
Right.
Tell the truth.
Okay, everybody. Right now, brother NUSTAL TV, he's actually drawing a portrait of Carter G. Woodson,
Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Thank you.
Okay. And that brother wrote the famous book, as we know, as The Miseducation of the Negro Child, if I'm saying that correctly. And get that book, read that book. He was an educator. So I think it's fitting that Art is drawing a illustration of the brother. It looks great so far. I can see the features coming out as he's moving forward in the development of the drawing, the sketch, what have you. Now, I put in the chat room a few minutes ago, brother Art YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to him, you got a lot of time to do so. Check him out. The brother's got great things going on. It's NUSTAL TV. Check him out. Those of you listening out there in Twitter and Periscope Live right now, check out this brother's channel. So what you're seeing right now tonight on my channel is what he does on his channel, where he talks about a variety of issues, and he not draws, but he does portraits. I'm using the word draw. This man's more than a drawer. He is a artist, professional. He does portraits, and he'll have very, very powerful conversations while at the same time creating works of arts. And he also has other people on his channel that are artists that will simultaneously at the same time be doing artwork while they're chopping it up on a variety of different powerful issues. So make sure you get over there. Let me get a sip of my water. Refreshing. And check out what brother NUSTAL TV is doing. Once again, we got Captain PY2 in the chat room. Thank you, brother, for being here. He made very good points earlier where he says that the teachers, particularly white teachers, tend to be quick to suspend and kick black kids out of the classroom. And we know that a lot of that comes out of the fact that there is a notion in this society that we are violent, that we are animals. And I had said it earlier before you came in, Cap, that this all starts from the time that our young males, our young kids are in the school system, coming out of preschool, kindergarten, right into your junior high, your high school, your elementary schools, so on and so forth. That's where the attack, in my opinion, begins to rear its naked head, or its
shout out to Muhammad's the 1-2. He's recovering in the hospital. I saw him in the chat.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I my prayers are out to you, brother. I will definitely put prayers for you tonight. I didn't know you were in the hospital in a situation, so I hope everything works out. Okay, we've got somebody else in the chat room. We got my man BMT, who's coming in the chat room. BMT, tonight we're talking, I've been talking to Art about a variety of issues around the importance of black male teachers, some of the ups and downs that black male teachers deal with in this system, the behavior problems. A lot of times black male teachers, and I had some data here that I went over about where they did a study where they interviewed black male teachers, And a lot of them are very frustrated about the fact that they're oftentimes thrust in roles where they are truancy officers. They're being used for the grunt work. Sometimes they don't have full autonomy in their classroom. They can't get their lesson plans developed because they're too often being thrust in roles of being disciplinarians in the school. There's a study that says that if you have a school that's a very economically deprived school where you have more than 1 to 3 Black male teachers, and they're dealing with poor conditions in that school, they're more likely to quit that school or quit that job. If Black teachers are in what we call white schools, or schools where you have a white principal and the conditions are still sort of poor, where you don't get all the respect that you should get, but the school is in sort of good condition in terms of the resources that you have, they tend to suck it up with the other stereotypes that they deal with and stay on within that school. So Black men are being hit in different directions. We know in 1954, there was about 82,000 Black teachers across the board, and it dropped to about 40,000 after that year. And there's been a dissension of Black male teachers being very difficult to retain. And we know that some of those reasons could be maybe the profession is not as desirable. In society, people are gravitating towards other professions, maybe where you get paid more money. But I was telling Art that there's still a need for Black male teachers in the lives of young Black males in school and our children, because a lot of our kids, as you know, BMT, are in schools where they're being taught by people who don't look like them, and in some cases don't care about them. And that is where the destruction of Black male image becomes destroyed, when we go into the educational programs from elementary school, junior high school to high school. That's when our image is being distorted all the way to the prison pipeline. So I just wanted to give you a quick summary, brother. What are your thoughts as you come on about the importance of Black male teachers, whether good or bad?
Well, first off, thank you for inviting me here, Info. It's always good to be here.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to you for allowing me to come on your panel. Shout out to Art for, being a teacher. That is a very rare, studious position that doesn't ever get much praise as it should. I've, in my whole criteria of education, and I've done at least about 14 years of education, I've only had about 4 teachers. I've only dealt with 4 Black teachers, male teachers. It is, and what's crazy about that, it's a flip, because there used to be hundreds of them. There used to be colleagues and classes of Black teachers. Before there was the females, there was actually the males that were teaching the classes. They were showcasing in math, arithmetic, English, cursive, handwriting. Like, I've actually had my teacher, he was, whenever we had to do reports, it was not in regular handwriting. It was actually in cursive. He would force us to write in cursive. And the reason why was, he said, that means if I could teach you how to write in cursive, you can write letters, to get into schools. He was actually factually right about that. You write letters about that. So I know that that the distribution of resources, especially I went over that with you, in certain areas, it's not fair. It's not balanced. What a big issue that we got going on is that a lot of young men don't feel encouraged to pick up the mantle and teach younger men, and the diligence of education. Why is it important? They just don't, because they know the hassle. It is quite of a hassle trying to play parent with a child that you're only going to have for about 8 hours, if that child can sit still,
right?
And trying to teach them curriculum that some of it gets changed up on a flip or a dime, and hey, this goes against what I believe or what should be taught. Also, along with that comes school supplies. If you don't have the proper school supplies or proper equipment, but they're telling you that the standardized tests that you need to have for your school, that's another frustrating barrier. So it's like, dang, you want me to teach them, and I'm dealing with what's going on at the home, as well as what's going on inside of dealing with the state, city, and council, because I gotta have a certain quota. If I don't have that, guess what? I can end up losing my job. I can end up, because they don't have enough money to keep teachers. That's something I'm not guessing on, because my friend, he is a teacher. He is a teacher, and literally, I see the gripes. He has work during the school year. Got to find a summer job, because he's got to make money for the summer, right? So you see what I'm saying? So I know about these guys, and I sometimes when I get some money, if I got a little extra money, I try to slide him some.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it should not have to be like that. But when other brothers see this going on to him, and mind you, he's busting his chops trying to educate young men and women. They're like, why would I want to pick up that noble cause? And he's getting dogged like that. So it's literally a self-sacrificial job. And it's nothing, it's not me throwing anything at art, but literally these brothers do get dogged out, because it's like, I'm trying to get the parents to understand to take an investment in your children. Plus, I'm also fighting the system, and I'm also fighting my own mindset of, is this worth it doing it again another 180 days? So when young men are watching what's going on to that one teacher, you might have that one or two boys that watch that older man, and they're like, dang, y'all, like, chill out. Like, Mr. Art's like trying to help us, or he's like literally cares about us. And kids will remember that man.
Right.
Say what we say, but kids will always remember that man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do me a favor, BMT. Brother Maurice, he's in Chicago. I've got his email, Court, since you sent me his email, which is fantastic. Send him the link to have him come on board. I want to get his thoughts on this issue. Brother Cap, if you would like to come on board. I think they have upgraded the StreamYards now. You can have up to 10 people on the panel on StreamYards now.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Really?
I was watching somebody's stream the other night, and I counted it. They had 10 people, maybe 9 people on the platform. And I think the guys that created StreamYard said that they were going to make it where you can have more people. So I think that you can actually go to 10 people or 9 people and 10 people on StreamYard now. Some people may not know this. I always follow their live streams when they tell you what the next improvements are.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do be trying to keep stuff up to date.
Yeah, I think every weekend you should go over to just put in StreamYard in your phone or whatever you're using, and on either Sunday nights or Saturdays they'll do a live stream telling you what the updates on their improvement. So go ahead and send Brother Maurice the link. I'll send Brother Cap a link, or this is what I'll do. Fuck it, I don't care. I'll put a link in the chat room if anybody wants to come on and have a conversation about this. I'll put it in the chat room even. I don't care. Because before we end tonight, I just want to get some other opinions. But let me lay this one on you, Brother BMT, and everybody that's out there listening. Let me go into this graph real quick. Let y'all see something here. I want to read this graph to you all. This is very important. This is why it is a danger for us not to have more black male teachers, because on the graph it says these are the students. There's 49. I think the students. Why does it matter? There is a lot of research that shows that a school system where most of the teachers are white and most of the kids are not is bad for kids of color, as they're using, but I say black people, African-American students. All right, so you got 16% black kids, Hispanics at 26%, and white students at 49%. Check it out. The white teachers are leading at 82%. You got 70% black teachers and 8% Hispanic teachers. And I was saying earlier, BMT, that Asians and Latinos are actually increasing their numbers in terms of going into the teaching profession as it relates to males, in particular males, whereas black males, the number is dwindling. Now we get on YouTube talking about the feminization of black young men, talking about what we need to do as a community, and certainly teaching or being in the classroom or mentoring our young men. If you don't want to be a teacher, but certainly getting involved in mentorship, it's got to be at the top of our ladder and a priority, because
Okay.
our kids are getting the short end of the stick, BMT.
I know you're talking to BMT, but
And you, brother, and you too. Yes.
I really want to touch on to this.
Yes, sir.
But please, this is nothing to say anything. This is nothing to say about anything else.
Yes,
I'm only
sir.
talking about this particular category because people like to volunteer stuff that I never said.
Oh, no. If I said anything
I'm just
wrong.
talking about what I'm about to say.
Okay, go ahead. It's on the record. It's on the record, brother.
A lot of people don't understand that there is a concerted effort to keep our children from going to college, not regular college, but a specific thing to where you would put them in a category or put them in a position to be a teacher.
Right.
Okay. Every time I have this conversation, somebody likes to volunteer. Well, not everybody. No one ever said that. We're talking about the ones that have college potential, 3.6, 3.4, 3.5, or 4.0. You know, and some of us work in these areas where, like, maybe Target, Home Depot, and you sitting there talking with them like, man, what you doing here? You know, and the thing is, we don't motivate them to really go to their highest potential. And so when we talking about there's not enough black doctors, not enough black lawyers, I always got to get a Jewish lawyer or something. We're always talking about we have to get someone to represent us in different areas that don't look like us. Hell, we don't really encourage the young ones to go up, to go and get this higher learning here. For these professional things that we need, you have to go into a university or something to make sure you get that paper. We're the only ones. I'm just gonna be real. We're the only ones in our community that always have pushback when it comes to motivating, some of our children to go to these things. And you know what's crazy? It's the same thing on the campuses, man. It's the same thing. Because some people start trying to say, well, the schools are trying to make everybody go to college. That's not true. That is not true at all. A lot of them are kind of like underlinedly giving you the whole, well, like, for example, we have a big staff meeting and then we have stuff on our agenda that says how to make these students college ready and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But later on, you got teachers that don't look like us just stand on the standing on the a podium saying, well, all students don't have to go to college. Now, usually the ones that say that got their kids at Stanford, their kids are at Harvard, their kids are in college, but they come into our communities telling our students that you don't have to go to college. Yeah, you got a 4.0, but you don't have to go to college. Why don't you go in and explore the world and take a break? You know what I'm saying? We don't really pay attention to this kind of stuff. And you got to remember, these are children listening. They're not you and me. We're adults. We're smart enough to know what they're coming from. These kids, you working from K to 12, you working your ass off, and somebody tell you you don't have to go further. Hey, I don't have to. Oh, okay, cool. I could just chill. My mom paying for everything. And the guy says, well, I got PlayStation. I just work at a regular store or whatever. I'm not in a hurry. I mean, they hear that enough. They putting the fluff out there so that other people can say, oh, you're trying to help these kids get their college careers. But on the other hand, these kids, you can't imagine how many students keep visiting me over the years talking about, I wish I would have listened to you, but I got caught up. I didn't think I needed to go and all that, but
tell the truth.
And I'm like, I don't want to be right, but it ain't too late. It's just going to be a little bit hard to motivate you.
Yeah.
But you got to get that, that paper. See, people keep trying to say, and I'll end it off with this. People keep trying to say that we're telling people to go to college so they can be better than the better person. It ain't about being a better person. It's like getting a driver's license. It's like getting some kind of thing to show that you know what you're doing in that profession. Our biggest problem that we don't do with our children is really narrow down a major that's close to their heart. They usually choose these majors because they think that you're going to be happy. They're gonna please you or something like that. Where it has to be in their heart. I don't know about being a stripper or a mercenary, but something that's really in their blood, that should be their major. You got thousands of majors to choose from. You can't pick one, really? And I'm done.
Let me just say this. I'm going to go over to BMT in a moment. Let me just say this briefly. As long as the numbers are unbalanced like that, our kids are going to be in trouble. This is the thing that bothers me. On YouTube in particular, BMT, you can attest to what I'm about to say here. On YouTube in particular, we tend to say that Black people should be striving for the best, that Black men should be striving for the best. But when you have Black children, whether it be male or female, who go to college that are looking for advanced education to improve their opportunities in life, now you're called a elitist. But then we say on YouTube, we got to be discriminating for the best. Black men will say we want Black women that are the best, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't on the one hand say that you want Black people to strive to be the best, but then on the other hand, talk about the ratchet Black communities that are in bad condition and the women and all this other stuff. But then when people strive to improve their status in life, now they're called a sellout. They're called a wannabe white. Why do we acquaint trying to be better with being white? Because we got to say self-hatred for ourselves. That's embedded in us. And brother Art, being someone who's been of the Muslim faith, you know what they say. Black people don't have knowledge of self because we hate ourselves, deaf, dumb, and blind. So I hear this all the time. Oh, they're being elite. Brother, if you're thriving for the best, you automatically going to put yourself in elite status. If you're thriving for the best, if you thrive to be for the bottom of the totem pole, then you're going to get what you put into life. So I got a problem with that. We can't have it both ways. Either you want us to strive to be the best or you don't want us to strive to be the best. And when we do, why criticize those who have made something of their life through opportunity? Because none of us, like myself, I didn't grow up with no silver spoon in my mouth. I just simply took advantage of an opportunity to go to college, which allowed me to improve the quality of my life and opportunities. And that doesn't mean you have to go to college. You can go to trade school. You can become an entrepreneur. There's many things you can do. I'll end there and let BMT take it all from there.
So, and this is a very passionate and close thing. And I know that me and Art, we bump heads at times on a few topics, but I take Art very seriously on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One, because he is a teacher, and two, I wish I had teachers like him when I was coming up. I didn't. So, in a sense, I had to find out things for myself. So I know what it's like to be that kid that because you like to read or because you like to look at different art or history, and when I showed you my my band and different stuff like that, a lot of Black kids are like, "Yo, we're ass out on our own." Like, there's no encouragement to go up, or there's no example. Understand? That's why I said the example of seeing a man in the school around the children, you'd be surprised how children will react to that man, because they were like, "Whoa, this guy actually is paying attention. He actually cares about us," So you are going to be dealing with that because some boys will be like, why do you care so much about me? You're not my father. And I'm pretty sure you've heard that before, Art. You're not my dad. Why do you care? You know, but you're looking at, I see something in you, you know, and that's the thing about it, because a lot of these people, it is self-hate on a lot of levels. I hear it. I've dealt with it, you know, and I understand. And sometimes I even deal with that inner demon my own self, where I have to catch myself. I say, you know what, it's better if I back out and don't say nothing at all, because I'm just getting in the way and I have some inner demons I need to deal with.
Right.
You know? But I understand that the system, there are men that are out there that are fighting, that are trying, but they're just not a lot of them. And the system does not encourage, and it will never encourage more men like him. It's a calling, and everybody's not called. And the few that are called, they will shine more on those who do negative harm than those who are actually trying to do good.
Right.
So that it's like you're fighting an uphill battle, because we're not seeing the ones who have compassion. In the state of South Carolina, if you are a black male and you want to go to school, they will pay you. The state will pay for you for free to be a teacher. Do you know how often that comes up in conversations for young guys who want to go to school but don't think they got the money? Never. It does not.
Never. You're right.
It never comes up. I've already showed you multiple times, Info. How many times have me and you gone over schools in South Carolina that are privately owned, that are being shut down?
Right.
And it's a fight to keep them open. Like the few teachers that are there that are doing private school choice, and let's be for real, it's hard. It is very hard to give them a healthy education, a balanced thing. Some teachers know, like, dang, I wish I had what those other schools have, so that way I could do better for my students. So guess what? It gets taken out on them as if it's their fault. So the young man is like, yo, why would I want to take on this cause? And yes, this is why I'm saying, like, it's a dying, it's kind of a failing dying breed. Because when you look at some of the school, some of the systems that are being set up,
right,
they're like, wait, we didn't get taught this, or there's no way I could teach these kids in this amount of time with this amount of resources. So you're kind of setting an uphill module of failure that is very unfair, because I felt kind of bad when only some kids could only tell me about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. I'm like, do y'all know anybody else? Now, why don't y'all know any other people? Well, you know, we can sing Lift Every Voice. I'm like, so y'all only know the generic broad strokes of history for you.
Right.
You don't actually know who you are. And when you don't actually know your history, you don't know your background, you're already going uphill. So when I started I think we took them to a peanut farm and started going, oh yeah, George Washington Carver, he made peanut butter.
Right.
No, he made more than peanut butter. This man was a whole scientist.
But that's because when it comes, see, for example, this is Black History Month, right?
Right.
Shortest month of the year that they give us, Black History Month. And what our kids are getting is a summary, but not a more in-depth, comprehensive history of what Black people, men and women, have accomplished in this society. And like you said, they usually will just give you, they'll say, they'll talk about George Washington Carver, the peanut. They don't go in depth. And how can they, if you do not have enough Black men in particular, given the subject that we're talking about tonight, that are actually providing that knowledge? That's what you should be doing as a father at home with your family. Hang on, brother Super Mike, because there's a lot of feedback, brother. I'll bring you in just a moment. That's what we need to be doing as Black men with our children at home. And you know this, education starts at home before it starts anywhere. And when it really gets down to it, and I totally agree with not some of the things, but with everything that you said, brother. There, let me go right ahead and say peace to. I think we got Spirit of Truth, who said a few things. His wife is from the continent of Africa. He talked about in Kenya the educational system is very powerful, very strict there. Brother Super Mike, let me bring you in, get your opinions. Tonight we're talking about primarily the importance of black men in the school system and also their lack of black men in the school system teaching. What are your thoughts?
Yes, sir. What's going on, brothers? Powerful,
All right.
Powerful round table.
Thank you.
What's
Yes,
going on,
sir.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback, brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me a little bit better?
Yeah, hear you a little bit. Yeah, you must be driving or something, huh?
Yeah, let me get on over here.
Okay. Yeah. I want to hear what you got to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, but
that's better. That's much better. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, the school system, we have to be there, but we need to understand where we're going, because I mean, that school system is just it's just like I'm sorry if I know some people don't believe this, but we do have people that are in positions of power that have a racist agenda, okay? And so that is an attractive place for those people to gain some influence in there. And so those folks, they end up getting in positions and they can control purse strings, they can control policy. These are the things that, so, when we go up into these educational systems, we have to understand that, when we're trying to bring good and benefits to our kids, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and all sorts of good things to them, and expose them to pride, self-love, history and things like that. In Detroit, I think I had a pretty good time in Detroit public schools when I was coming up, from the 80s to, the 90s, whatever. But,
yes,
because we had, black history. I mean, we learned about Marcus Garvey, Hannibal, and, we learned about some things that I'm finding out that a lot of other students in different places didn't learn about. And that gave us, at least it gave me, and plus I learned other things, like you said, at home and things like that, which was good. But when you know what's going on with your people, the good things that your people and you are capable of, you grow up with that feeling in your heart of love for your own people. So when some of your people do ignorant things or stupid stuff, or if you didn't have that, how you can grow, like your kids can do something that no one else would accept, that type of behavior from your kids, but you can look into that behavior, you can even correct your kids, but you won't lose the love for your children, because that is inside of your heart. You see what I'm saying? So right. If you have to, during the school period, that is the best time to put the love of oneself inside the heart of the kid. You see what I'm saying? And if they don't get that in their heart, then of course when they get a little bit older or what have you, and they get offended by some stupid ignorant behavior, maybe they get robbed, maybe they get assaulted by somebody in their community, and they take it in a way where it is really maybe the wrong way, and then they lose self-love because they didn't have that in their heart. And so that's what I mean. And that's why you get a lot of people, once they become successful, they begin to have the thoughts of divesting. They don't want to reinvest their hard work and their earnings back into their community, because they feel like they got out, and then let those kids get out too. They don't want to create those ladders that they were given to remove themselves from the community. So yeah, I mean, I think this is something, when we go up inside of these spaces, you got to have more love for people than they have for themselves, because you're going to be challenged, you're going to be offended, you're going to be I mean, really, you're going to be, it's not going to be there's not going to be necessarily a financial reason for you to stay there. There's not going to be any physical reason besides you loving those children and wanting to give them something to look forward to for you to be there. It's going to be pure love for the most part, because most men, you're going to be able to find more physical, more monetary opportunities in other spaces besides just a school a lot of time. And so that's all I'm kind of looking at. I mean, that's just some of my thoughts when I'm talking about, because we do need to be there, but you got to be able to take some of those hits, because you're going to be, I mean, because my father was an educator, my grandmother was an educator. I mean, their whole life. And I know I have, my ex-girlfriend, she's an educator. And so I have some of these inside stories inside these systems, and how people infight and all these type of things that goes on, and sabotage from the above and all that. So yeah, there's no other reason for you to be there except that you love those kids a lot of times. So that's my thought.
All right. Well, peace to you, brother. What I'm going to do, sir. I'm going to take it and call back in or come back. You can, that definitely, we got to have you back on the panel. I'll be doing some more panel discussions with people. So you take care of yourself, brother. I thank you for your input.
No problem.
I'm going to wrap this up with brother Art NUSTAL and BMT and put a
yes, sir. I'll see y'all. Thanks.
I appreciate you being here too, Super Mike. Thank you.
No problem.
I know it's getting late for people across the country. And I think I need to put a wrap on this. But brother NUSTAL, I love what you did with the photo there, brother. Not the photo, the art piece. You got, there he is, the man, Carter G. Woodson. Brother, how are you feeling tonight? Any last thoughts you want to put on the table? And I'm going to put your channel back in the chat room again. Everybody needs to subscribe to your channel, most definitely. But any last words that you have to say, either what the brother Super Mike was saying, BMT, any last words, brother?
Okay. I see Art got a book up there.
Yeah, he's got the book, The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson.
Well, I would say this, because like I said, I wasn't a school teacher, I was a military instructor.
Okay.
And I can tell you right now, in teaching, a lot of men discipline. And I do know a few that did go into the teaching field. I encourage, if any of y'all do get to hear this, any young men, to it's a self gratifying thing to know that I did something to make a span of a difference. And then, like I said, I can't lie, I do that on my own show. I try to teach young men and women about financial literacy, business, government, different stuff. So I try to teach, and it's like I said, I know it's not as extravagant as certain shows, but it is a nap part of my nature, because we have to slow down this wild horse and try to stable these children. And I'm not sure if y'all got to see earlier, I did a show with 3 teenagers. And the teenagers, they actually reached out to me earlier this morning. They actually would like to talk to a few of you adults and actually understand your mind and actually understand y'all talking points. But there are young people who do want to learn. And I get that we always say, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, or we need to build a community, we need to do that. But guess what? Guess who's one of the biggest builders of the community? That teacher. That's somebody that's going to be with your children and your children's children.
Right.
I'm not sure if y'all understand that. I know y'all want to talk about, y'all need to be that millionaire. And yes, I know there's not a lot of teachers that are millionaires. But that is a cornerstone of the Black community, was that teacher, not the pastor. I get y'all like talking about the pastor. I know y'all like talking about the holy man. But that teacher is somebody that is going to be long lasting. When my kids see their teachers in my school, yes, majority of the teachers are predominantly Black. I could have chosen for them to go to a AAA school or something better, but I want them to go to a school where a lot of the people understand them and actually understand and can speak to them. And we have one-on-one rapports where if my sons act up, Art will just be like, yo, like, I'm calling your father if y'all don't sit down. Do you know how many teachers wish they could do that? Just say, if I call your father, everybody gets quiet.
Right.
See, back then we used to have that. We don't have that no more.
No, we're a long ways from that now.
Right. And like I said, it does hurt when I hear a lot of the men nowadays F this thing or bump these kids or this kind of stuff. I'm like, you forget then you want all the chances in the world from society, but then you say you cutting off the stem. So we definitely have a lot of lost children out there in the field. And we need to put some fireflies out there. That way they can probably start seeing the flicker of how to like slow down and get themselves back together.
Right.
So, like I said, y'all, I know we like talking about every other career, but this teacher, the Black male teacher, he's very much so a big component. You know, I know y'all like talking about the father, but when you don't have that father, that teacher, be that he may be a teacher or a coach or a band instructor or whatever, he's definitely that next in line for guiding a lot of these misguided young men and women. True. I know, but I was one of them.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's what I got to say, Art. I mean, in info. Do apologize. Go ahead.
The guy from Texas says a lot of white school teachers told Black kids call CPS on their parents for whipping them. Well, you know, I grew up at a time, man, when it was very common to get a whipping and wasn't nobody calling Child Protective Services on you. But we live in a time today where society has gotten softer, and any and everything, people will go and run off and call Child Protective Services if there's anything that they deem as abusive. And I'm not here to endorse abuse of children, but I grew up at that time when you could get spanked in public, and it was commonplace. Brother Art, any last words? Because I'm gonna wrap it up. It's late for people across the country. Any last words, Brother Art?
Just to let people know for sure, every time we're on the same panel, this is the man, Information Man, is the one that got me started on YouTube. I blame him. It's his fault. He was the first guy that got me on a panel because I didn't think I should be able to do it. He talked me into it. Now I'm here.
Yeah, man, you good.
I'm addicted. But one side note, because we talk about the whole pedophilia and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be an issue when that stuff gets across the Supreme Court, because you have a lot of people in these schools that kind of get down that way. Some people got caught, but when it becomes legal, that's going to be an issue. So when you talk about homeschooling, you might want to find a way to revolutionize it, because that's probably going to be the only way to guarantee that your little baby is safe. Okay, because you're talking about coming out the closet back in the alphabet time, the alphabet committee people.
Yes.
Wait till these other people come out the closet. And when they come out the closet, ain't nothing you can do about it.
Right. Nothing you can do about it. The genie is out of the bottle. You can't put it back in. We're already seeing that right now in the way society is going, Brother Art, that there's a lot of things that are happening that I don't agree with personally, but it's out of the bottle. You can't put it back in, and you've got to figure out how you're going to adapt to the society that is being formed and created before our very eyes. So it's always you're always trying to adjust. I'm going to say this is my last word tonight too, is that I believe that as long as there is not a presence in the classroom in terms of Black people, Black men, we are going to see more and more things happening to our kids that we don't agree with. We're going to continue to see values that we don't agree with become a norm for our kids. And so when I read that chart that showed you clearly who's dominating the classroom in terms of teaching and the kids that are in the classroom, it is very obvious that Black kids, and particularly Black males, are not getting that image across the board in the classroom. Certainly there are private schools. There are schools where you have charter schools. You have schools in New York that are being taught about Black males. Black principals are running the schools. Certainly these schools do exist. I think my man Q Butter, and shout out to him out there, is involved or runs a school in the New York area out there. So there are certainly Black men and Black people in general that are doing these sort of things as teachers. And also, if you're not a teacher, you're doing things as a mentor, you're doing things to influence youth, you're taking of your own time, or you're being responsible as a man by raising your family, raising your kids to strive for be the best. And that's really what it's all about. So with that said, everybody, thank you. I know it's late. People have come in out of the chat room. I want to thank my first guest, which was Brother Art, NUSTAL TV. Make sure y'all check out his channel. We got Brother BMT. Check out his channel as well. It's Black Male Talk, BMT. If you don't know who he is, I want to thank both of you brothers for being on here.
Yeah, shout out to BMT.
Yeah, shout out to BMT coming in on late notice as I send him a link. Thank you. We will do this again and have some more discussions. Next time we do this, we'll try to see if we can get this going on a weekend where people don't have to worry about going to work the next day, so we can really get the chat room popping off a little bit more. We'll try to figure out a better schedule. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, brothers, definitely. And I'm going to sign out here. And with that, folks, everybody out there, I'm going to sign out with the audio that I was trying to play in the beginning of the program. And we were having some audio blocks, some problems with the sound, and I'll have to go back to this video and edit out what those sound problems were. But this was part of the beginning that I was trying to get across. There's a brother by the name of Travis Bristol in he's at UC Berkeley College. He's a professor, and he's talking about the whole issue around Black males in the classroom, things of that nature. And I'm going to play that as part of the ending segment of the show. And here we go.
Is UC Berkeley Assistant Professor of Education, Travis Bristol, who's pioneered programs that support male teachers of color. Hi, Travis.
Hi.
So why don't we have more teachers of color, especially when we know that they improve outcomes for kids of color?
Yeah, great question. We did not always have this problem. So policies created this problem, and policies can fix this problem. So for the Brown decision, Black children were in schools taught by predominantly Black teachers and Black principals. And with the Brown decision and the civil rights legislation, when Black children entered desegregated schools, desegregated white schools, their Black teachers and their Black principals did not move with them. There was a recent study that found that between the years of 1964 and 1972, about a third of Black teachers were fired in the South, right? And so there was a time in our country, right, when we did not have a Black teacher shortage. That policy, in some ways, an unintended consequence of Brown was that when Black students moved to quote unquote integrated schools with white children, their Black principals and their Black teachers did not follow them. More recently, during the George W. Bush administration and the administration of President Barack Obama, there was this idea that to improve failing schools, you had to close them. The schools that were closed were schools that had predominantly Black and Latinx students, but the teachers in those schools were predominantly Black and Latinx teachers. When those Black and Latinx teachers were dismissed, we saw the creation of alternative certification programs like the Teaching Fellows Program and Teach for America. And those programs primarily recruited white teachers. So I think that we weren't always in this crisis, that policies created this crisis, and in many ways, policies can fix this crisis.
So you're working with California's top education leaders, including the new state superintendent, Tony Thurmond, on some ways to retain teachers of color. What are some of the ideas being thrown around to address this?
The primary reason why we see this teacher-student ethno-racial mismatch is less about recruitment, because we are, on average, we are seeing teachers of color being recruited into the profession. The issue is that the teachers of color are leaving the profession at a higher rate, and so Superintendent Thurmond is really thinking about retention, because if we pay attention to retention, then we will see we'll get to maybe levels of parity between the ethno-racial match of teachers and students.
And we learned from Vanessa's story that support groups are actually key to keeping these teachers in the classroom, and that sounds like a simple thing to implement, right? So why don't we see?
Okay, everybody, thank you for being here tonight. No matter how little people in the chat room are not, it does not matter. The most important thing is that information is gotten out there to people to examine. I'm sure the video will get more views going forward. I won't use this audio in the podcast, but I'll do a podcast that will only be on my podcasting platforms, which are Spotify, SoundCloud, Anchor. Then you've got Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I'm going to do something separate on there from what we did tonight on here. Because what I'm going to do is go over the numbers a little bit more, the data that I talked about a little bit more on there. And be on the lookout for my next live stream. There was an article that broke out just the other day. Well, they did a study. It was a 20-year study. And wait a minute, let me just show myself for this moment. So they did a study about 20 years talking about the medical impact, not only emotionally, psychologically, to Black people when it comes to racism, but the physical impacts that it is doing to our body. And I'm going to go over that in a live stream. It'll be a brief live stream, right to the point, just to give you the facts, the data. And you're going to find this very interesting, because I think many of us could be suffering from these very things that are impacting our health. And we've talked about this many times as a people. We know these are realities. So with that said, thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to end on that good note. Peace, and see you soon, everybody. Peace to you.
You are listening to Information Man Podcast. Tell the truth. Information is power. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel. Tell the truth.